Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 1 Million Mind. We have a very exciting show for you today. And how are you doing, Balaji?
I'm doing great, Rajni. I've been forced to say that because we're in a heat wave and it's like frying me like crazy. But because I'm on the show, I'm forced to say I'm doing okay.
But before we started, we talked about it. The heat wave Balaji is claiming is 85 degrees in California, and the
Exactly.
same cool wave that we have in Texas is 85 degrees in Texas, and we are doing cartwheels because it's not in triple digits anymore. We went to 107. So I guess, like just like everything in life, it's all contextual. What makes it
I don't know how
hot or
you do
cold?
it, Rajni. I can't do 1 week of 85 degrees here in the coast. It's tough.
That's awesome. All right, let's get started. So we have a very interesting report that Deloitte and then also McKinsey also released one. Basically, it's the state of AI. They are they get an update. They say published one at the beginning of the year, and they're given an update in August since we are in Q3. And it's a lot of questions we've been asking when Balaji and I talk, and other folks when I talk to have asked this question: is where are we with enterprise adopting AI? Because I know a lot of DIY folks like Balaji and I, we are all in on it. We use it for our own personal life as well as for work, but we are not really going to move the needle as much as enterprises using this, right? So it's always been a good question. Where are enterprise with it? Is there still a lot of hype? Are people seeing value in it? So I'm very always interested in this question. So what Deloitte put out is very interesting. McKinsey put out some similar data points too. But let's start here. So I think one of the key takeaways is there's a lot of investment that has gone in, and people are now kind of stepping back and saying, okay, we made a lot of money. Are we going to invest more in 25, 26 into these projects? Or are we seeing value? Or are we going to, take it back because it's not really working, right? That's the first question. But what they are seeing from all these surveys from Deloitte is 67% of the organizations are increasing investments because they are seeing strong value to date. So the biggest bubble, what you see on the screen is improved efficiency and productivity, which is interesting because I know a lot of these come across as reduced cost projects. We'll talk a little bit more about why that's a little bit more nebulous topic about reducing costs, but a lot of people are absolutely seeing improved efficiency and productivity. Just some projects that I can think of as people like in enterprises are launching co-pilots, whether it's Teams, Outlook, emails, and PowerPoint and Excel, and they're seeing a lot of value. So these are not like standalone AI products. This includes everything that they're using. So I can see value, whereas it's quicker to market about quicker to the user actually using these tools, and they're seeing their day-to-day job get a little bit easier. So have you read anything about this, Balaji, or just your thoughts on where things
Yeah,
are
I'm
going?
just looking at the material, and it's very interesting, right? I think I just wanted to focus purely on one aspect. I think that everybody's seeing this change their outlook on all the AI has to offer. Search, right? I think we are always looking for information. The faster the information comes to you, the more accurate it is. That much more you're efficient, you're productive, right? I think if you take just searching or looking for information alone, it's a huge thing, right? I think that's why we hear talks about how Google is getting phased out of the older technology. Now there's emphasis on the new stuff. Um, I personally no longer go digging for 10 web page links and digging through each one and figuring out there's perplexity. There's other things coming into play where you don't do the stuff you used to do that consume time like before, right? So it totally makes sense. That's the biggest bubble that you see where 34% in this chart improved efficiency and productivity. I think it's going to kickstart a new cycle where the moment I free up that time, I'm going to do something else, which is even more interesting to me.
Agree. And I think that's where, as a leader in the company, they're saying, okay, I'm already seeing value, so I'm going to continue to invest. So that's like the key takeaway from this is that they are almost 70% of the folks are seeing value, so they're going to invest more, which means as an entrepreneur, you see a lot of value in being able to provide enterprises with these solutions because they're going to continue to invest and look for solutions that helps them with improved efficiency increased innovation and cost reduction. So moving on, I think it's interesting to talk about the next slide and on some of the use cases and key findings on how these are driving real world value, right? Because again, we can talk about all the possible use cases, but where the rubber meets the road is where how are these industries using it? So we can touch upon a couple of them that are interesting to me. Is finance is always it's a giant industry, right? Project management tool that quickly creates summaries and material for key stakeholders. I've run a project and program management, so to me that is a use case that hands down is a very useful use case. I'll touch on telecom because you know about it. Support tools deployed for retail and technical field staff and systems for troubleshooting and preventive maintenance and to reduce costs. So this is basically almost like a support function within the telecom. And then let's pick insurance, an internal medical claims appeal review that provides increased response quality and decreases time to respond. So insurance is always a very touchy topic for us because it's never it's a nebulous item. I have to like, especially medical insurance, I have to go through the benefits that comes to your home, and it takes a PhD to understand what's going on. So to be able to reapply and reclaim some of this, again, that's from a consumer perspective, but the hospitals and companies also have to deal with the insurance company so they can get paid, and you can more the automation that happens is great. So do you have any thoughts about some of these use cases that actually work in the real world?
Right. So when I look at this chart, I was just scanning like a pattern, right? The first five solely focus on customer service and issues related to that. Looks like it, right? So, and that makes sense because you sold your product, now you're spending incrementally money on supporting it, and how can I optimize it? How can I make it cheaper? Banking obviously is the first one because that's where most of people are calling in. They want a real person. The automated thing does not work as expected and results in a lot of human involvement, right? So if then the last three looks like more efficiency in the technology and other things where it's process flow management. So if I look at this as two different bins, it totally makes sense that everybody's focusing, or at least the executive interviews. This chart talks about focus more on how can I. It's a low hanging fruit, right? They all know that it costs X dollars to support the product. How can I bring it down, thereby improve my bottom line? The other three, technology, finance, pharmaceutical, those bins that's a much more, I would say, domain specific knowledge that's needed. The first five seems more going after the customer support.
That is true. That's a good way to segment it. But I think what I read from the McKinsey review kind of supports this too. Is a lot of I call it chatbots or customer-facing bots have been implemented, whether it's on the support side, on the sales side, or whether the onboarding users. It's been a great success. Almost there are multiple examples of that, and Deloitte is basically supporting that. That these are how the indices, different verticals are using it. So let's let's talk about why this is working and what are some of the. This the next one. It's really cool because we've seen this right in real life. There's so many ideas on how we can use this in real life, but also we've seen this is where proof of concept, the POCs are easy to create, but as soon as you try to scale it, you run into so many issues, whether it's hallucination because you're now using just one source of data to now multiple organizations you're going to use data. How do you, so it might have been clean data for this organization, now you have to go to multiple places for the other one. So when you go across different verticals within a company, how do you scale it? So scaling across an organization where you have thousands of employees have some basic requirements that makes it quite challenging. So what does that boil down to? Only about 30% of these projects ever make it to production. So a much lower number than I thought would be, but it's very interesting because I think you and I have seen this is scaling may mean differently in different companies. So a small group to an entire function, multiple companies, multiple integrated processes across a whole IT department just leads to a lot of complications. So I'll pause there and get your thoughts on it, because this is definitely very interesting.
Yeah, this is an interesting chart to look at. If you ask me, I think I have a different viewpoint. Yes, if you look at it as like a funnel or pipeline or whatever it is, there's things getting pushed along the way towards production, right? I think all of these eventually will get flushed out, but it's sitting there from proof of concept to either waiting for multi-department agreement on how to do things, or policies, or rules. Whatever the company has, it has to come and make sure this thing gets held all the way to production, right? I think that's one way to look at it, because when I look at it from the entrepreneur side, yeah, I mean, CTO is fixing code in the production, right? That type of environment, things move faster. But the bigger companies, I think it goes through these stages where everybody must agree, and they are. The fun part is, I think, soon I think people realize the one size fits all type of software development we have done with some features, and there's a lot of flexibility in the way we can build with AI. The question is, how do we manage this variation? That's a key question. I think that probably will stop and pause. Right? Let's make sure this is done right.
So that is the next question that they asked is, what is the reason for only 30%? So what are some of the barriers to making this scale happen to all of these POCs? Right? It's 30%. So what can be improved to get it to 70, 80% of all these ideas actually go into production?